Good morning. Welcome back to Friday Coffee Talks. I'm your host, Connor Volpe, and we're here talking on a Friday over coffee. It is a big week. We've got slap full of things going on this week. Yesterday was Thanksgiving. I hope you had time to enjoy with your family. I hope you got plenty to eat. I certainly did. The belly is full, still full, and I'll be having Thanksgiving leftover sandwiches for probably the next week straight. I also picked the GT hat today, supporting my jackets as I do every day because it's clean old fashioned hate week, the week where I can openly and unabashedly hate Georgia. I do every day, but typically try to kind of keep it contained. I know how that sounds. I'm fully embrace the fact that I'm a hater. I am one. I are one. It's just how it works. I'm sorry, but go Jackets. To hell with Georgia. We're gonna shock the world tomorrow. I'm gonna call it right now. I think we're 35-point underdogs against the number one team in the country at their home stadium. But when we pull the upset, you heard it here first. Our fourth string quarterback's going to go in there and get it done. So it should be a fun day tomorrow. Go Jackets. We've also got the World Cup going on right now. So if you're a soccer fan, you are obviously aware of that. If you're not, hey, there's a big worldwide sporting event going on right now. And it's a lot of fun. The U.S. kind of tends to ignore soccer. World soccer. But every few years, there's a chance for us to band together and support our boys overseas or wherever the case may be. Generally, for us, that's the Olympics, and there's a lot of events and all that kind of stuff, and the hype gets pretty real around the Olympics. But I don't feel like that same level of excitement is there about the World Cup. And so yeah, the U.S. plays England today, this afternoon. It's going to be a massive game. I can't wait to watch it. It's going to be a blast. But it's a unique thing for me that's really exciting because I work for a British company. I've had the opportunity to go to London, to Bristol, where our headquarters is, on a number of occasions. And every time I do, it's an education. We always play the game of what word do you guys say for this? Oh, we say this, we say this. And it's been fun. It's been great. It's gotten to introduce me to some culture, some places I've never been before, and it's amazing. So adding that to the list of things I love working at Store Magic, why I love working here. But what I've realized, and I've been trying to get this together for a while, is I've benefited a lot from working for a British company, and I'm going to pass it along to you. So today, I'm joined by a special guest who's going to give all of us Americans a little bit of British education. So without further ado, please enjoy my conversation with my good friend, Elliot Goodman. Well, welcome back. It's Friday Coffee Talks, and we're here for another great interview today. I am joined by a man that needs no introduction. He is a former professional rugby player. He's a seller. He's a husband. He's a father. Most importantly for today's discussion, he's British, and he's known among some as the biceps of Bristol. It's Elliot Goodman. Elliot, thanks for being here, my friend.
Thank you very much, mate. Not professional rugby player, by the way. I'll say semi-professional, not professional.
You got paid to play rugby. It counts.
Okay, cool. Okay.
That's professional to me.
Let's take that. No, thank you for having me. It's amazing. Thank you, mate.
Yeah, we've been trying to put this together for a long time, and I'm glad we're finally going to get to do it today.
I know, right? It's a shame Ned couldn't join us, our third wheel, but it's okay. He's a bit camera shy at the moment.
Yeah, we'll get him. We'll get him eventually.
Yeah, get him a glass of wine and sit him down.
You know what? Next time I'm over, we need to just film one in person.
Yeah. Great idea. Definitely that.
So the goal of today, and one of the reasons that I asked you is a couple of reasons. One, it's perfect timing. The U.S. versus England plays this afternoon. Well, Friday afternoon. We're recording this a couple of days ahead of time, but this afternoon, 2:00 Eastern time. It's a throwdown in the World Cup, so we want to talk about that. But one of the things that I've enjoyed most about working for a British company is getting to come over and hang out in Bristol. I've adopted it as one of my second homes, and to learn about the culture in England. It's been really fun to go and get to experience that with you guys. And it seems like, especially the first few times I came over, all of our discussion was around, oh, well, what do you say for this word? Oh, we say this. No, that's wrong. It's supposed to be this. And kind of just comparing cultures a little bit. So what I was hoping to do today is get an American or a British education for an American idiot like me.
Well, we can. You got the words. We can go off straight away. The ones that always come to my mind as a British person is obviously you could bathroom, elevator, line. When we'll go, I'm going to go to the loo. I'm going to use the lift, or I'm going to go and queue and
Right,
get
right.
whatever. That are two ones. The one that really makes you chuckle is herb and herb.
Yep,
So you missed
yep.
the H off. That one's a big one for me. That one just makes me laugh. It kind of like throws me out a little bit.
The
Um,
H, yes.
it's just completely, yeah, just leave that to one side. Don't bother pronouncing that one. Um,
That's one that
and I,
I'll say, we both work for Store Magic. Mark Christie, our director of technical services. I have been on so many calls with customers where they give him grief about the H. What is the word that they always say? I can't remember it now, but there's some word that he always says it, and they're like, hey, they always like come back and go H, and it's so funny.
there are also things like that. And then obviously from a more British perspective, I think the most British thing is obviously got to be the English breakfast.
Oh, sure.
So when you come over, that for me is like when you're looking at it, you got your bacon, your eggs, your beans, mushrooms, tomato, black pudding, like all on one. During that for me is like very British. But then you go to another level again where that's if you've got time for real breakfast. I think the real British one has got to be Greg's baked bean and cheese melt on the go in the car. I think that's got to be up there. That's got to
Yeah.
be up there. You must have tried a Greg's when you come over here. I'm sure
Wait.
Ned must have taken you to a Greg's.
Oh, I've been to Greg's. You eat
There you
a
are.
baked bean and cheese melt in the car?
Oh yeah, you can go. Yeah,
You don't
yeah.
get
Leave it
beans
cool down.
everywhere? That sounds like the messiest
No,
thing I've ever heard.
no. The way Greg's do it is just another level. So it's just they keep it tidy.
Okay. So the other thing, I want to go back. The other thing that you just mentioned that I find funny is you're talking about the English breakfast. Now, let me say with full disclosure, I have a great appreciation for the English breakfast. I love a full English. I have come to terms with the fact that beans are a great addition to breakfast. So I'll say that. But you did say bacon, and that's something I want to touch on too, because when you say bacon,
Okay.
you mean a very different thing than what we understand as bacon over here. So for us, bacon is what you would call streaky bacon. Strips, rashers of very crispy bacon. Your bacon in a full English is what we would call Canadian bacon or ham.
Yeah, there's big old that yeah. And what the best bits if you get proper farm shop ham bacon, where it's nice and thick, it's wide. You cook it up, and again you go into sort of like preferences of how people like their bacon, like crisp. Some people like crispy bacon. Like I guess in the US you have like crispy bacon strips on your pancakes and stuff like that. So it's very similar when you look at breakfasts. So some people like it just done, like just a little bit, or they like it really crispy. It's one of those questions you ask when you're going to make it. How do you like your bacon? Do you crispy or not? And it's just one of those things. But yeah.
That makes sense, I guess. Yeah. There's a place I haven't been over in a while because of pandemic and stuff, but I've got a pretty solid routine now whenever I come over to the home office that I take an overnight flight, land in Heathrow early in the morning, and then there's a restaurant that for the life of me now I can't remember the name of it, but there's a place that I've been with Jen a couple times and go and it's a really nice restaurant in London, and I go and get my full English and a nice cappuccino there and then hop on the train to Bristol, and just like I'm set for the train ride. Then I got this nice breakfast. It's awesome.
It sets you up for the day. That's the whole point of English. It sets you up. You mean cappuccino, full English. You're done. You're done till 2 p.m. You can keep rolling through it. That's the whole point of it.
Oh, it's so good.
But then, yeah, like you said, you touched on tea as well. That in the UK is, you get judged highly on how you make your tea. And if you dare put milk in and then put your tea bag and let that sit in there, you are thrown out of the house. You're disowned by your family. I know historically, I guess they used to use milk to keep it cool when you put hot water in, so the china didn't smash. But I mean, nowadays when people put tea bag in, put your hot water in, let it ferment for a few seconds, a minute, take tea bag out, and you put the milk in. But then when you put the milk in, you need to be careful because it's all about the color of the tea, and you can't have it too milky. You hand someone a milky tea, give their hand it straight back to you. And you're like, what is that? What is that disgusting thing in front of me? And it's very much if I go make a tea for my in-laws, it's very, very similar. They'll look at it, they'll judge me by my tea.
Really? It's like a status symbol.
Yeah, yeah. It's almost like, do you know what you're doing? Do you, I mean, are you then they'll look at you and give you that approval. That's a good tea. I mean, that's a good tea. That's the one thing someone, if you've given serving someone tea for the first time, they'll look up and go, yeah, that's a good tea. I mean, it's just like the most British thing ever. Um, but it's yeah, it's just one of those things. It's yeah, how much sugar you put in there and the type of cup you use that you get to put tea in. I mean, it can't be like a coffee cup. It's like a tea cup. It's a bit different. So there's lots around it. It's more of a. I see tea as a thing as more enjoyed, and I see coffee as a like a necessity. I mean,
Okay,
I
all
have to
right.
have a coffee. Like when I think about tea and coffee, anyway, I think coffee is like one of those things I need for work. I mean, it keeps me going, gets me up, gets me motivated. But tea is one of those things to be enjoyed. I mean, on a Sunday morning, you wake up, you make a cup of tea, you can sit in a back garden, whatever. That's how I see it anyway, and I'm sure other people do in England.
So
But
let me tell you my tea making process, and you can judge me from the British methods because I'm gonna say it right now, you're not gonna like it.
I know I'm not gonna like it.
We've had plenty of discussions about the like kettle versus other methods of heating up water. I have a kettle. I invested in a kettle based on feedback from my British coworkers, and I use it quite a bit. But if I'm being honest, in the evening, I generally will drink tea in the evenings. Like I have decaf tea that I'll keep at home, and if I'm like sitting watching TV, I'll drink a tea at night. Is really the only time I drink tea. So I will get a coffee mug like this one out of the cabinet. I will fill
I
it
know
with
what you're gonna say.
I'll fill it with water and I'll stick it in the microwave for like two minutes and heat it up. And then I get a tea bag like this little packet, right?
Yeah.
And I open it up. Like, hold on, I gotta rip the paper. You guys have tea bags, right? Do tea
Yeah.
bags. So it comes out on the little like string, right? Dip it in the water and let it steep for like 5 minutes or something. And then for me personally, I use Splenda. I like sucralose sweetener. I'll do a packet or two of that if I'm feeling frisky, maybe honey. No milk ever.
No milk ever.
No.
Well, a lot of people do that. I mean, a lot of people have like no milk in it, but it's just yeah, it's not how it should be done. Put it in the microwave for me is like a big no-no. So
Yeah.
you can't do that. That's just like sacrilege. No, that's just all sorts of wrong in every way.
Yeah.
I only put honey in my tea if you're not very well. Do you know if you're not
Right.
feeling very well? Do you know
Right.
if you've got a sore throat, you put a bit of honey in your tea. Never. And on the evening, yeah, I know a lot of people do it on the evening. A lot of family of mine do that just to settle them into the night. Put a film on, have a cup of tea on a cold night. But yeah, that's all types of wrong what you've done there.
So is it
We have the
something?
tea like
Go ahead.
go on. Go on.
Is it something where like I'm going back to your story about like impressing your in-laws or like proving yourself to your in-laws?
Yeah.
When do you ask like how do you take your tea, or are you just supposed to make it and they go off of what you make?
Yeah, you ask two questions. It's do you have milk and how many sugars?
Okay.
Or do you have sugar? So those two things. Then you are just left to your own devices to try and figure out and make this perfect tea for first impressions. And you got to go out in that kitchen on your own. It's very lonesome. It's very you got to be focused on it. Do you know what I mean? You've got to just take your time. Don't want to overdo it because you get one shot at it. You don't want to be anyone to look out and pick their head around the door and see that you're tipping out a tea and have to do another one because you've ruined the first one. That's just yeah, you lose major points for that. You got to go out there, knock out of the park first time. Got to
Right,
be
right.
good consistency, good color, good taste, and then you're away. I mean, you're in the family. Then you get embraced by everyone. So you've got that nod from the elders in the room. You get the great nans and the nans and the mother-in-law. Just yeah, good tea, and everyone. Oh, there we are. You can make another one next time. They will say that's the next one comes out. You can come again, make another one.
That's
And
got to be
you're good.
the like you've made it, but you can make tea
Yeah.
again.
Yeah, when someone says that, that's it. You're like, yes, I've made it in this family.
I'm
I'm
in.
part of the. I'm in. Exactly that. Do
All
you
right.
guys have any rituals like that in the US?
I'd say it's similar for us for coffee. The same type of
Yeah,
like people. It is one of the dreams of mine to sit out on like a deck or a porch on a snowy day, like in a snowy morning, and drink a cup of coffee. Like coffee is less necessity and more enjoyment for me. Most
yeah,
times, like I enjoy it, and so I think that's probably our closest equivalent. We would have the same kind of feelings around coffee, but I don't think it's like a measuring stick for us too. Like I've made plenty of coffee for my in-laws or for guests that come over, but it's not like you make somebody a coffee and they're going to go like, oh, you're a horrible person. They're just going to go suck at making coffee.
Yeah.
So, all right. Well, I've learned about tea. I'll use my kettle more. I'll make that promise to you, Elliot.
Let it ferment in the kettle. And most of what you said was right but add milk, let it sit for a little while, take that tea bag out, get rid of it, and just a little bit of milk in there. Don't overfill it, and then you'll enjoy that good cup on your
you know what, this evening I may try some tea with milk. I don't think I've ever tried it, in fact. So yeah. I'll give it a check.
I remember I drink when I was a kid, we used to have like tea in little bottles as well. So then with your normal milk bottle you would have, you just have that full tea in the morning. So it's just that I'm not sure if you have similar in the US. We'll have like a tea made for us in the morning when you're sort of like 3 years old or 2 years old in your little sippy cup. You'll have a cup of tea.
You know what? The point of this is supposed to be you teaching me about tea, but I feel like as a Southern kid, I have to at least mention Southern United States free sweet tea. It's something that I know just doesn't even exist on the British radar, but for us, it's cold tea, typically in a gallon jug, mixed or like a big pitcher. And it's so sweet. It's like you get diabetes just having a sip of it, but it's so good. It's just so good. And it's like you don't sit and like just sip on a cup of sweet tea. It's like a drink to be drank with lunch or whatever over a chicken sandwich or hamburger.
Yeah, I think as far as I'm aware, that's pretty unheard of over here. There used to be one, I can't remember what it's called now in the UK, where you can buy a cold tea, but I don't know if I've ever looked out for it because I think it's disgusting. It's like, it just reminds me of sort of drinking dishwater. It's going to be absolutely vile.
You got to come over. I'm going to get you some Chick-fil-A sweet tea. It's going to change your life.
I look forward to it.
Yeah. So let's talk about one of the other things that's going on right now. It's very topical, which is the World Cup. So the U.S. just tied Wales yesterday. You guys beat Iran earlier this week. We're coming up to a big showdown. And this is exciting for us because last World Cup, U.S. didn't make it. So I got to be a full England fan. So tell me what it's like to be World Cup time over there.
Well, it's when the football's on, you know when it's on because everywhere is empty. Like the roads are dead. It is so quiet, and it's the first thing everyone talks about. You go onto a call or a sales call or anything, is for the first 20, 15 minutes is all about, oh, did you see that person drop? That should have been a penalty. That should have been. Well, maybe it just goes on, and it'll go on for months afterwards as well. So it's huge over it. But I will confess, I'm a bit of a leper over here when it comes to football. I'm more of a rugby fan than a football fan. So I try my best and keep myself into the mix of the football. I watch some of the big games. Obviously, gonna watch the England v US. I'll have to watch that. But yeah, I'm usually a big fan of rugby and football over here.
It is. We've got the Olympics. I think it's probably as close as it comes to us for like that periodic event where everybody kind of gets sucked in. Yeah. But we don't have any sports besides the Olympics where like a single event where everybody just kind of stops and everybody's watching the same thing. I guess the Super Bowl, but that's generally in the evening too. So you don't have, it's not quite the same level of excitement and dedication, I think, for us.
No, in the UK, all the school, and when I was in school and World Cup was on, like whatever time the game was on in school, the whole school would stop. Whoever would go to the hall, it would be on the screen in the hall, and you're all sat there. Everyone's wearing England shirts. No one's wearing school uniform. It is like you had to get involved with it. It's just the roads are quiet. It's the same as people at work. They'll nip out, go down to the pubs, and sit home, watch the football. But yeah, it's massive over here. You just won't see, the roads are empty. If you want to get your Christmas shopping done, it's like this is when you get it done. If it's a tactic you want to do and get out and get in there and get your shopping done, do it when the football's on. It is empty. It's ghost towns everywhere.
That's a good tip. I have to say the last World Cup I happened to be in England for it, and watching an England World Cup match in a pub in England was phenomenal. Like
Yeah.
one of the best experiences ever. It was
Yeah, the
amazing.
atmosphere is just huge. And we get all the different songs, the chants, the all the different teams come together. Do you know what I mean? You get that. Yeah, if you're in a pub watching football, you can get more British than that. Do you know what I mean? You're literally getting the full taste of British
Oh, it
there.
was awesome. And then you've got the sayings. So you got the chants, obviously. We have them,
Yeah,
but not nearly like you guys do. But like it's coming home. You've got all these things just like associated with
yeah.
it that it's part of the culture.
Some we can't repeat on this camp. But I mean, there's some imaginative songs out there. I know they're brilliant. And when you hear them, they just make you laugh for ages. And how everyone gets tuned into them, it's brilliant. It's really entertaining. You go to a football game, is brilliant life. I mean, or you're in a pub, or there's a load of you around. It is really fun to be
Yeah.
part of. Really fun. And obviously, yeah,
So
a few drinks
that's
and
oh yeah.
you're away with everyone else, and you're part of the vibe.
So that's one thing that I wanted to kind of get. I feel like you've got a pretty unique take on it because you're also an American football fan, Cowboys fan, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And you recently got to go to Wembley and go to an NFL game in London.
Yeah.
So how do you kind of balance the two? What was your experience like at an American football game versus a football game that you've been to plenty of times?
I'd say from a football as a soccer game, I mean, there's a lot more chats going on. The songs are more imaginative. You're in there, you're in the mix, but again, it's still quite segregated because obviously, yeah, the away fans are in this usually a little corner of the whole stand. The rest of it's all home fans. It's completely different from that perspective. NFL and rugby are very similar, where everyone can just mix and you can have a bit of a banter with people around you. So there's a big difference from that perspective. You can't really mingle with other people, and I know with football you're not allowed to have drinks on the terraces or things like that. With rugby and the NFL, you can go out and you can take them out there and sit down, have a nice drink. So there are some big differences from getting
Yeah.
involved with it. But I mean, from getting sucked into the real to the atmosphere, I would say football is just one of those ones you just can't help it. Like as in soccer, I mean, you can't help it. I mean, even if you're not the a big fan of football, but when you're there and you're in the atmosphere and people are singing, you just can't help it. Just getting pulled into it. It's such a great feeling. But yeah, the NFL. I've been to a couple of games, and because of the length of the games, like 3.5 hours, I was really worried I wasn't going to be like engaged in the game the whole time. I was going to start go into the bar, but you're just fully engaged the whole time because it's really quick turnarounds, and the keeping the fans engaged with firing t-shirts up into the crowd, doing the spotting people on the cams and things like that, kiss cams, all that sort of stuff. It's just really entertaining. I mean, I loved it from that perspective. How I was surprised how engaged they keep all the fans for that amount of time. But 3.5 hours is a long time to be sitting in a stadium for. But to keep everyone fully immersed into the sport, it's really impressive actually.
Yeah. Huh. That's interesting. I guess I haven't thought about that before. Of at soccer game, I'm gonna say soccer. It's easier. At
Yeah,
soccer games, it's more about the game, the sport. The focus is
yeah.
all on the field. And at NFL games, it's more of a production and entertainment type of thing than it is with soccer.
For me, that is, I guess, yeah, yeah. So
Yeah.
the whole thing, yeah,
Yeah. I mean,
yeah.
now that I think about it, it makes sense. You've got cheerleaders and the t-shirt cannons and mascots, and
Yeah.
none of that exists in
No,
soccer.
none of that comes with soccer. It's a completely different thing. Even rugby doesn't really come with anything like that as well. You get the odd team that might have like a mascot or stuff, but nothing to the level of what the NFL have. So it's brilliant. I mean, I'm hooked. I'm completely hooked on it. Doing the Dallas Cowboys, I love the bits. I mean, I keep following very closely. And, it's great. I love the sport.
Nice. Well, so I think there's a lot to be said about England in particular, but the rest of the world's dedication to the World Cup specifically. I wish we had that. I was just talking with one of my friends last night that he went and watched the game at a like an Irish pub, our equivalent of an Irish pub here.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
it got rowdy, but it's just nothing to the level of you guys. So I wish that people would be more invested because it is such a great experience to be a part of something that like everybody is pulling for the same thing and you can all cheer and stuff together. It's awesome.
It's getting there though in the US, isn't it? It's the popularity of soccer is getting there. Do you know, I keep seeing it on movies, I keep seeing it in the news. Do you know, slowly, like all of our when our players in the UK are looking to retire, they go over to
Yeah,
Florida and play a couple of
to
games, or LA, and
Florida.
they and retire doing out there. So that's really all everyone heading out there. So David Beckham's got a team out there, I think, isn't he?
Yeah, yeah. Well,
So
Gareth Bale, he scored the tying the equalizer against us yesterday, and he's playing in the U.S. now. So
yeah, there you are. Yeah, so it's just it's definitely building over there. Won't be too long until that sort of ecosystem of US players gets to the level of those coming over, the foreign players coming over, then you're going to be really competing at the top.
I hope so. Hey, when
Yeah, you
we
will.
when we knock you guys off on Friday, we're gonna be sitting pretty.
Yeah, yeah,
So yeah, I want to talk a little bit more about you. So you've got an interesting background. You come from recruiting. You spent a lot of time in recruiting before you got into
yeah,
IT, and then even in your time at Store Magic, you've bounced around and done. You are inside sales manager for a while, and now you're a field seller, enterprise rep for the UK and Ireland. How have you
yeah.
kind of how has that career path been for you? And how do you feel like you've grown through those different phases of your career?
Yeah, questions. I've done construction trades and labor. It's called construction contract recruitment, basically. So it's temporary employment. So that's what I've fundamentally done for 7 years. So it's super fast paced. You're out in offices and sites 2 days a week in the field, meeting people, and you've got to walk into random cabins and buildings. It's like cold calling, knocking on the doors and trying to get people. It's really like that and hammer the phone. So that was kind of the bedrock of trying to get into sales was just brute force of just hammering those phone calls. My first week in recruitment, my boss said there's a whole a big filing system in the back office, and it's A to Z of all the customers they've had over the last sort of 10 years. And I start at A and pull out the accounts, ring the contact on there, I try and have a conversation with them, then put it back, and then go to the next one. I know there's about three, four like massive towers of these. That was like my first experience of getting into it. And then it was just in the week getting out there, just drop onto construction sites and into meetings, just trying to have conversations with. Because in construction, you can bump into a director or project manager when you're out there, and that's what we predominantly be employing. Would be anything from labourers to your project managers and engineers. So it's a full suite of tradespeople, and it was just the way I really got into it. First got into sort of IT was as a service solution for the construction market. So it's that little sweet spot, knitting them both together. So I have really good experience in construction, want to get IT. I brought in as a sales manager to sort of set up that team. So that was my initial getting into those terminologies and sort of how the ecosystem works and about resellers, disties, and that sort of thing. So it's kind of a nice landing for me, really. It's a sweet spot. And then come over to Store Magic, where I was then asked to sort of manage the ISRs globally. Then COVID hit, so we had to do it all remotely. And again, it was just kind of another stage on. It's been really nice phased in because obviously the management comes first of just trying to get the structures into place, the retention into place, make people happy. You're employing people, and you build along that process. You're learning about the terminologies in the server and storage space, which is really nice. So I've done that for 2 years of just basically picking up the terminologies, running a small territory myself, but also managing a team, which then moved me nicely into this role I'm in now, which is the enterprise sales role, which is perfect. It's all kind of worked out really well for me in my career. It's also been very patient and just worked hard, and it's just slowly moved exactly where I wanted to go. It's been fantastic. I love working with Storm Magic, love the role, and I can easily foresee servers and storage space as a general being where I'm staying forever now. It's amazing.
Yeah. It's funny to look back on things and see how those dots connect of, things you
Yeah.
picked up and skills you picked up, how they translate even when you didn't expect them to at the time. And gosh, it's been a common thread for me as I talk to people, on here and in everyday business of there's so much value in that first, you're showing up to construction sites and knocking on doors. That is the grind of sales in like the most
Yeah.
extreme way. And getting that exposure and getting that under your belt early, I'm sure it set such a huge foundation for you.
Yeah, and that was a big thing. I mean, going out is 2 days a week. We'd go out, and it was just on site after site, and you pick up loads of business from it. I mean, it worked. It really, really worked, and that's where it all came from. And you set your desk up, and it's really fast paced. And the very yeah, I really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
That's the other thing. I absolutely loved it. I mean, just meeting new people, the weird and wonderful conversations you end up getting in, and the stories that come from it. Because you're always with someone. I was lucky enough to start off with my best mate. So me and my best mate got me into sales. He got a job in recruitment. He brought me along. Hey, you'd be really good at this. You come join me. So we went, and we're just me and him in the car, and we just go out and we'll have such good times. We're just speaking to people and having conversations, and it's amazing. I loved it.
That's great.
Yeah, yeah.
My first job, my first real job ever was also with my best friend. It wasn't in corporate world. I worked at Subway making sandwiches, but it's so good to have that buddy right there next to you, even when the work sucks and you're just like, but you got your buddy with you. Yeah.
Yeah, it was so good. We'd be in the car. There were some points we'd have to go in the car for a couple of hours and go and see, and we'll just be having a great time. I mean, it was just amazing. I loved it. Loved it.
So the other thing about you that I find super interesting is before you got into the corporate world, into sales, into recruitment, all the things you've done, you do have the athletic background as a rugby player. So how do you think that the things that you picked up, the skills that you picked up, the attitudes you picked up, whatever in rugby have helped you or translated into your business world afterwards?
Yeah, it's a good question. I was actually thinking about this the other day, actually, and I think it comes down to, especially in rugby, you've got to work as a team. There's no individual. You're not going to get over the line working on your own. Unless you've got absolutely bucket loads of talent and you're in a really poor league. But I think it comes down to having that inner grit to like desire to win, and when the chips are down and you're not feeling 100%, or there's the game's not going your way, or whatever it may be, you've got that inner desire to keep fighting forward and until you find a way. I think that's the key thing, and that's what I found in sales as well. On a Friday, we used to have to hammer the phones on a Friday. That was the big thing when I first started in recruitment. And I think that's what translated over really well. There's some days I wasn't feeling too great, or whatever it may be, but that inner desire of like, no, let's go, let's pick it up. And then there's the same sort of mentality in a rugby pitch. I mean, you miss a tackle, you do a bad pass, or whatever it may be, you can quite easily like ruin your whole game or ruin your whole day off one bad sales call or whatever it may be. But there's that inner ability to just switch and go, right, forget about it, move on, grit, bullshit, let's go into the next bit, move on. Yeah. And I think that's what brought me over, and that's what I brought over into sales, is that keep pushing when the chips are down, in a desire, the inner grit to keep going forward. I think that's what I brought.
That's huge. It's so valuable. Oh my gosh. Well, Elliot, the other thing I want to touch on real quickly before we wrap up is a little bit about Bristol. So you're a native Bristolian, right?
I am generations of my family. That's just done my ancestry, and about 75% of my ancestry have been within a 50-mile radius of Bristol. So I am Bristolian. There we are.
So for those of you that don't know, Bristol's a town in England. It's about an hour, 45-minute train ride out of London.
Yeah.
It's a suburb, I guess. Is that what you call it? Or you guys don't really have suburbs?
No, it's got to be one of the top 5 largest cities in the UK, I guess. We're based down the southwest, so we're probably out of the UK. We're in the warmer section of the Gulf Stream. We're in the warmer section of the UK, so when we get snow or anything like that, we probably get it for like 24 hours or less than 24 hours. So yeah, we're based down here. We're a typical port city, all based around shipping and that side of things, and that's where it's all originated from. But yeah,
it's I've loved going. I've been to Bristol now. I can't even count how many times. And I've gotten to the point I've been enough that I kind of know the city. I know my way around. I know some good takeaway joints that I can go grab food from. I know, the pubs we stop at. And it's a great place. I've really, really enjoyed Bristol. So I've heard people knock it before, and I'm like, why? It's awesome. It's a great place.
it makes me laugh when tourists or anybody come over and start speaking of Bristol and they sort of reciting facts about Bristol back to me. Like the last time I went to a museum in Bristol or done any tour would have been when I was about 12 years old on a school trip. So I try and regurgitate stuff. It's really difficult because I'm like, this is so long ago. But
Yeah.
when people come over, it's really fresh for them, and they can bring things up really quickly. But there's loads of history in Bristol. I mean, some of the big old houses in Bristol are older than the US. Do you know what I mean? So it's loads of history here. And just going around, you can see it everywhere. That's the good thing about it. And when I take the kids out, you can point at certain buildings or certain sort of derelict buildings and infrastructure where it used to be like cobble streets. And you've been down to cobble streets in Bristol, King Street. The history is all around us, and it's quite nice just to go out on a Sunday afternoon or with the children, and you can just easily point things out and tell them stories about things, which is really cool. But I love people coming to Bristol. People love it down here. I mean, it's very there's different areas for different types of people. There's not very sort of corporate, and you have those sort of areas, but it's very all about art and music, and it's just very relaxed. And you know that you come when you come over.
It's I love Bristol. I really am looking forward to going back. It's it's a great town. There's one place that it's very endearing to me. It's probably the sketchiest place in Bristol, sketchiest place I've ever seen, but it's the Bear Pit in Bristol is
Yeah.
like you're equally likely to get stabbed as you are to like see anything else. But it's such a
Yeah.
weird, like that type of thing just doesn't exist. It's this weird, it's a
It's a big
big traffic circle. And then there's a huge, like sunken, just, I don't even like a
yeah, it's
park
like a walkway,
or
underground walkway, and then you just have this little courtyard in the middle of this roundabout. It's basically a big roundabout submerged in the ground with walkways coming to it from all different angles, and you have like just you have your hobos in one corner, you got a coffee stool on the other, and you don't know what's going to happen going through that place. It just
it's crazy. Well,
yeah, it's
Elliot,
crazy.
this has been great. Thank you so much for
Thank
joining
you.
me. Thank you for educating me. I feel 10% more British today, and I'm going to try some proper tea tonight.
Go for it. Look forward to hearing your thoughts. Thank you for having me, mate. Much appreciated.
This has been fun. Thank you all for joining us. Excuse me. It's been Friday Coffee Talks with Elliot Goodman, a British education for an American idiot. I don't know why I keep calling myself an idiot, but a British education with Elliot Goodman. Thanks so much for joining us.
Oh, yeah.
We'll catch you next week.